Yo.
So, hoping my internet's going to be fast enough for the episode.
Uh-oh.
It's taking forever to do pictures, and normally it doesn't have. It's moving along now.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Posting on social media right now. All right. Is there anything you wanted to start with outside of the movies? I know the Oscars came out last week.
Ivan Reitman died.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that, too. All right. We can start off with those things and then get into the show.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, Everyone's a Critic podcast.com as well. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle there is Critics Pod. Listen to the show at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show, give us 5 stars. We'll read your review on the air, and we will have Blu-rays for you if you're the next one to do it. I think the next one is I Spit on Your Grave. Nice 4K anniversary package.
Yep.
If you want to hear us talk about that, head over to patreon.com/criticspod. That's the best way to help support the podcast. Give yourself a credit on the show. And then we are at TeePublic. If you go to tpublic.com and search Critics Pod, you'll find us, or go to ihatecritics.net. Click on the TeePublic link to get some of our podcast merch. My son all of a sudden has been infatuated with Willem Dafoe, more so because of the new Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Like, has he been in any other movies? I'm like, I got 2 shirts with him on it. So I someday we'll go down that rabbit hole, start with Last Temptation, and then go on the Body of Evidence.
There you
go. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to work yourself up to that Lars von Trier movie.
Right, which I still haven't seen yet. Before we get into the show, some stuff. A lot of things that happened over the weekend. First and foremost, yesterday, not during the Super Bowl, but was announced kind of during the Super Bowl that I noticed it anyway, that Ivan Reitman had passed, director of Ghostbusters and Twins and all sorts of, I don't know why he went to Twins, but several movies.
Yeah.
Father of Jason Reitman, who's a great director in his own right. 75, sad.
One of the last things he did was, I don't know, he was there and actually got to call cut on a couple of scenes on Ghostbusters Afterlife. He was there with his son, and that was a lovely little tribute, to his dad, which is, pretty sweet when you think about it. And I believe the Blu-ray has a lovely tribute to him as well. Even he was still alive when they made it, but yeah, that's pretty cool. It's been a while. We haven't seen it. He's not directed anything since 2014. His last directorial effort was Draft Day with Kevin Costner, which wasn't a bad movie. But it'd been a while since he directed anything that anybody really loved. Like, I would say Kindergarten Cop would be the last time anybody really loved something he did. He made a lot of other movies like 6 Days, 7 Nights, Father's Day Junior were especially pretty bad. But I still have a soft spot for Evolution with with David Duchovny,
Yeah.
which I know a lot of people hate, but I do have a soft spot for that movie. It's just so silly.
Well, he made more than anything watchable movies. You know,
Yeah.
he wasn't trying to rewrite the, reinvent the wheel. He was just making good, fun, and watchable movies, and you either loved them or you didn't. That's usually how watchable movies work. There's really nothing special about Ghostbusters, but for whatever reason, it's one of the most fun movies ever to watch. Even Twins, for a long time, I got away from it, and then going back, it wasn't as much fun as when I was younger. But he just really does make watchable movies, and that's something not a lot of people can do. You look at someone we talked about last week, Roland Emmerich, who that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say. I think thinks he is reinventing the wheel. But regardless, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm not trying to say he should have died instead. That's not where I'm going. But he made some classics, especially for me as a kid. So it is kind of sad. And but yeah,
certainly notable. And his son is creating his own legacy in a very wonderful way. And that's a great legacy for Ivan to have, is that he gave birth to this kid, that he and his wife brought this kid into the world who's making great art now. And that's always something that he can go away proud with. And obviously the Ghostbusters, that's his thing. The cast obviously gets a lot of credit as well, but it was his baby.
Yeah, he tied it all together.
Yeah.
But yeah, just sad news. And then also the Astra nominations came out last week. Any shocks? Anything that surprised you?
I was bummed about Nicolas Cage. I get one of my tweets actually went viral a little bit because I said that Nicolas Cage got robbed, and people were retweeting and sharing that a lot. And yeah, he was robbed. That was the best performance by any actor last year. I would absolutely say that it's not only on par with what Benedict Cumberbatch did and what Denzel did in his movie, and obviously it's way better than anything Javier Bardem did in that awful Ricardo's movie that got multiple nominations. That piece of crap. But again, it's about the movies that. It really is about the movies that the largest majority of a group of people can coalesce around, as opposed to the actual best movie. And that's why Belfast is going to win Best Picture. And it sounds like I'm bagging on Belfast. I'm not. It's just that Belfast is a movie that's very easy to like. And although if people watch Death on the Nile, maybe they won't feel the same. could be his Norbit. But on a preview of what's coming up. That, or even West Side Story, is the same kind of thing. Power of the Dog gets the most nominations and has a chance. I mean, they did vote for Moonlight, this group, so there's something there. Sometimes they actually picked the best movie in the category. Sometimes they never pick the best movie. We know that.
No. Right.
Because no movie we've ever voted for has even been nominated.
Right.
Yeah. I can't even think of the movies that we've mentioned. I think Arrival maybe got nominated for Best Picture.
Did it?
I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, I don't. That was
if there was one, that's the most likely.
Right, because Gone Girl didn't get it. None of the Ari Aster movies
Llewellyn
did.
Davis didn't.
Yeah, I think pre-podcast Les Mis was the last one that you really pushed for that got nominated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also notice we stopped covering the Oscars on the show too. So, and everybody comes to me and goes, "Why movies? Why not TV? TV's so much better now." And I'm like, you're talking blockbuster movies. The indie movies with the directors that get to do what they want. Those movies are still as good or better than any form of, moving picture art right now. Better than TV, better than blockbusters. as good as it gets. I mean, both you and I have Midsummer and Hereditary near the top of our all-time list, and those are fairly new movies. Not to mention all the other A24 movies that are also creeping up there. I really think it's a great time to be a movie viewer. It's just
Absolutely.
We just have to sort through some more shit than we normally don't have to sort through. You specifically, you usually get to skip some of these straight to DVD movies that now you can't tell what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, I'm having that experience a lot these days. But then I get Nocturna and Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, and it's like these are movies that without COVID maybe I never see. Or H is for Happiness. We want to go back a couple of years.
Oh, yeah, or that baseball movie last year.
Yeah, Giants Being Lonely.
Yeah. So anyway, let's jump into our show, and I will. Oh crap! I haven't done that part yet. Hold on, gotta get the pictures up here. Sorry, I told Sean to be ready at between 6 and 6:30, and he from now on he should really just start looking at that second number when I'll be ready. Where are we at? All right, share screen, preview, share, maximize. And we will start with where you were foreshadowing earlier, Death on the Nile.
Death on the Nile stars Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot, the Agatha Christie created character who is a world-famous detective. He's on his second adventure, because the first one, the Bullet Train movie that he made, was pretty good. That was a pretty terrific mystery. Had a lot of really interesting characters and nice twists and turns. It was a lot of fun. This one is completely the opposite. Although it's more opulent, even more opulent than the first, and even more expensive looking than the first, and has, as big or a bigger cast, it's bad in ways that I don't, just the characterizations are just all off. And it starts with Gal Gadot, who is an actress I really like, but she's just making a lot of weird choices, and she's kind of seeming like more and more of a weird person coming through than a weird actor, because you get this impression of her outside of her acting that she's kind of odd, and that's kind of creeping through. Like, as she gets more and more power and becomes more and more of a star, she becomes less and less down to earth and more odd. The character she plays here is supposed to be, this very rich, very accomplished woman, but she comes off as just like a space alien. I think that's touch. Yeah, like, and granted, that's rich. Most rich people are in that way. At a certain point, you get so rich that you become essentially alien to the regular people. But she's just becoming. It's the acting is just not there. It feels like the person is coming through. She's the kind of actor who needs a stronger hand as a director, and you would think Kenneth Branagh as an actor would be that kind of director, but he's really more of an actor's director. He wants these actors to do the kind of actorly things that he enjoys doing, so he wants to give them all sorts of freedom to find their performance. And in doing that and giving her that much leeway, she kind of almost borderline humiliates herself with this rather over-the-top performance. It just doesn't work in any way. But then everybody seems just a little bit off. Everybody in the movie, Armie Hammer seems just a little bit off. Just everybody in the film.
Do they sing Imagine?
Thankfully, no.
Yeah.
The mystery isn't very good. It's not very hard to determine. I figured it out pretty quickly. Which, again, this isn't so much of a problem. If you've got a cast that is interesting enough, it doesn't matter how predictable your movie is. We're going to get to a case of that a little later on, where, again, you have a very predictable plot, but because the cast is so good, you don't even notice. Like, some people could say that Gone Girl has a predictability to it, but it's so good in its construction and its cast that it wouldn't matter if you were able to figure out what was going on too quickly. It's right. Just that,
because you're pulled in. Brilliant. Exactly. You're pulled in, and you're not even thinking about words. You're along for the ride. You forget to think about how it's gonna twist or end.
This feels like a cartoon crossed with like a daytime drama, like a soap opera. And it's just That's not it's not very conducive atmosphere for great tension,
Yeah.
suspense, and mystery.
Scooby-Doo meets Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, with Scooby as the mustache.
Yeah. Gal Gadot was scrappy. Is there any worry that she's Henry Cavill?
I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to wonder if she's just kind of getting in her head a little bit about how big a star she is, and that maybe she's not taking direction as well as she did with Patty Jenkins in the original Wonder Woman. You got to have a director who can direct people, and without a strong hand to guide a performance, I'm starting to wonder if she's going to end up in the same place that a lot of actors of that type end up, where they just keep making the same movies and getting a little bit more and more out of touch every day.
Well, you keep getting those paychecks, and that's all that matters to some. Anyway, anything else on Death of the Nile, or should we move on?
It's a real big disappointment. It is really bad and shockingly so, considering he's such a great director and such a talented actor.
And he directed this too, or just started?
Yeah, he directed this.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's move on to Marry Me.
Marry Me is a shockingly good movie.
Don't say it. God damn it.
What?
Should have watched it. Well, I mean, I figured it would automatically be bad. It looks like Jennifer Lopez trying to be, attainable. But now you're saying it's good. So that's awesome. You want everything to be good. So it's not like I'm rooting for it to suck. I just skipped it because I thought it would suck.
To be fair, I went into this thing thinking, knowing I was going to hate it. Like, I had extraordinarily low. It was not a high bar for this to get over, considering Jennifer Lopez has a history of making really terrible romantic comedies. So it was not a high bar that this had to get over. But it gets over it because this is such a clever casting. These two, you would not think would have this kind of romantic chemistry, but it turns out he's just what she needs. She is, a very over-the-top performer. She makes big decisions. She needs a good director to get her there. But short of that, she just needs somebody who can ground her a little bit and make her seem normal. And Owen Wilson has this ability to be so charming and so laid back that he takes her OTT qualities and brings them down to earth in a way that is very fitting of this character, who is this pop star, who is the most famous woman in the world. She's so famous that she's getting married on stage to her would-be husband, Bastian, who's played by pop star Maluma. They're going to get married on stage after they sing their new hit song called Marry Me. But as she's about to go on stage and she's dressed in this elaborate wedding gown, somebody shows her a video of Bastian cheating on her with her assistant. And so she goes up on stage and is kind of lost and confused and sad. And she gives this little speech. And then she just looks out in the crowd, and Owen Wilson just happens to be holding up a sign that says "Marry Me," that belonged to his friend, Sarah Silverman. And she goes, "Yeah, you. I'll marry you. Yes." And she brings him up on stage and they get married right then and there. Because he's trying to prove to his daughter that he can be spontaneous and fun. And so he takes the opportunity. And from there, it's just this kind of very unconventional romance. And it's an interesting thing. I watched this other movie this week that is also about a world famous actress who goes to this resort and falls in love with the chef at the restaurant. And it's a very predictable romantic comedy in the vein of Notting Hill. And the thing about it is that the two actors who are the leads in that film just don't have it to make it more interesting. They don't have that chemistry to lift you beyond what is obvious about this plot, that they're going to end up together. Whereas Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson, I'm watching this movie and there's so much star power and so much charisma coming off the screen that of course you know where this is headed. You know where this is going, obviously, but it works because they're so charming together. He makes her so much better. And I got to give him just so much credit, because considering the terrible fucking movies that she's made in this genre, I have to credit him and I have to credit the director.
Yeah. And I mean, we were making, or me specifically, was making fun of Owen Wilson last week about not really being a star anymore. And in a way that probably helps here because they're stars in different ways. I mean, it doesn't get much more famous than Jennifer Lopez right now.
Yeah.
I mean, even Beyonce and Jay-Z are like, they're like almost so famous, they're so off to the left that they're not even mainstream anymore.
They're like the royal family.
Right. But she's just always on our face lately the last few years specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, really for the last 25, 30 years, but really the last few years specifically. I mean, and a few years ago, she did that, or a couple years ago, did that Hustlers movie where I thought she's never been better.
Yeah.
And it's similar to this in terms of at one point her character's, I mean, she's not famous in it, but she comes off and clearly is a star of the movie. At the next, at the end of the movie, she's working at Kohl's or something like that. And you buy it the whole time. And it's cool to see her being in those relatable roles. Cause that's, the kind of the opposite of the Gal Gadot situation in the last movie.
Yeah.
To be able to bring Jennifer Lopez down to relatable. And that's more due to her fame than anything else, mixed with her bad decisions. But the fame really helps with that. That's a pretty impressive feat, I think.
Yeah. Owen Wilson's really great.
It's on Peacock. Yeah.
It's also in theaters if you want to go to a movie theater and see it. Oh, really?
Yeah. What do we got next? Cosmic Dawn.
Cosmic Dawn is the story of a woman who, as a child, she lost her mother, and she was there when her mother was abducted by aliens. She grows up about, desperate for answers, trying to figure out who she is and whatever happened to her mother. And she begins to see this woman and starts to follow her. She doesn't know why she's following her, but she thinks this woman has some kind of information that she needs. She follows this woman into this bookstore where she meets a character but played by Emmanuel Shariki, who shows her this book, and inside the book is a picture of the author, and the author is this woman she's been seeing everywhere. So she buys the book and she gets invited to this meeting, and it turns out it's for this cult that believes that aliens are going to be returning to Earth. So she joins the cult and she's going along. But all the while, the movie is shifting backwards and forwards in time in a way that is really unnecessary and really cuts away any kind of tension in the story that might be necessary to sell it. The movie can't decide if it's taking this premise seriously or if it's making a B movie sci-fi picture. Some of the performances are very over the top and bordering on silly, like Emmanuel Shariki's performance, but then the main actress is just very bland and straightforward. The cult leader is going kind of up and down over the top, and then you arrive at an ending that just kind of leaves you just kind of scratching your head going, well, I still don't know what this was about. And it's very unsatisfying in that way. And I don't know if this, I think it's the structure. I think structurally, this is just such a flawed structure to bounce back and forth in time, where back in time she's in the cult, then further in time she's out of the cult and she's trying to find the cult leader and potentially, I don't know, kill her or just try to prove that she's not dead. I don't know. I was so annoyed that I just kind of gave up and played on my phone for about 15 minutes. So I might have missed something important because I just didn't care at that point. The way things were shifting back and forth, it was just impossible for me to get invested.
Your critique of this is making me want to fast forward the episode to a director who knows how to handle these situations and do it right. I wish I had put him back to back. Still got a ways to go before he gets to those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool enough poster, I guess. But even the poster, you can't quite tell if it's a B movie or a
It's hard to tell what it is. There's elements of 70s drive-in sci-fi. There's elements of very modern science fiction. It's very straightforward.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I don't know if you saw this one. I watched Kimmy on HBO Max, the Steven Soderbergh film. Did you get to watch it at all?
I did not.
It's basically Kimmy is Alexa, more or less, only people actually listen to it so they can really pick up on what we're trying to ask Alexa to do. So Zoe Kravitz is an agoraphobic character who her job is being one of the Kimmies and listening in on stuff, and she thinks she hears a crime, very Rear Window-ish. The problem is, there's a lot of this is Steven Soderbergh, so I feel weird saying there's a problem. It's just very convenient. A lot of things that happen in this movie, and I don't think any of us want the government watching us, or anybody watching us, a corporation or whatever. But this movie kind of has us thinking maybe they should watch it, and I don't think that's necessarily the way you want to go with it. The endings.
Did it kind of push it too far? And it was talking about what a danger it was, and then went it too far into kind of advocating on behalf of it.
Well, I mean, she basically hears a sexual assault happening, and the corporation doesn't want her to act on it. The corporation is supposed to be the bad guy, but they're also not wanting her to act on it. And she works for the corporation, and it just it spirals out of control, and you don't really know. I feel like I guess it does engross you enough where you can start to follow the story, but as soon as you get out of it, you start thinking about it, you're like, well, I mean, not that I want them avoiding sexual assault, but that's, I don't want them listening in on me talking to a Siri or Alexa or whatever else. And, and then you're thinking, well, maybe she's agoraphobic. Maybe she's got mental health issues. It is during COVID. That is relevant here.
So she's an unreliable narrator?
So you're thinking that, but then it goes into the straight ahead action movie ending, which, again, fun enough, I suppose, but I've either seen too many movies and am just picking apart for no reason. It's also Steven Soderbergh, so I unfairly probably hold him to a higher standard. Everything is competent. It was just kind of I don't know. It just wasn't really for me. Again, the ending's too clean, and just it again works for an action movie, but I still I find myself stepping out going, well, really the corporation is the good guy here for what we really all want. And universally, we all seem to want that. Yeah. And they just kind of twisted the story around. I don't know, to make us feel bad for wanting that, or give us a devil's advocate approach to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not for sexual assault by any means,
obviously,
but I was thinking maybe they were going to play a mental health game with it, and they flirt with it, but they don't fully go there. So I don't know. She does have sex in it. I know Steven Soderbergh cares a lot about that. So isn't that what his critique of superhero movies?
Yeah, nobody's having sex. There's no fucking in the Marvel movies, but there's fucking in my movies, damn it.
Yeah, especially with my agoraphobic characters. Again, competent. It's one of those, you see too many movies. I'm not surprised you skipped it. I would have. The only reason I didn't skip it was because I didn't want to do 2 foreign films back to back at work. So I did this one instead and did the other one on the treadmill. Huh. Anyway, I would say it's safe to skip this one, unless you're just a Steven Soderbergh completist. Then to each their own. Let's move on and talk about Shapeless.
Shapeless is a horror film about a woman who has a eating disorder. She is bulimic. And what she does is she just, every night when she comes home, she loads up with food, and then she goes and she pukes it all out. And then she wakes up the next day and starts everything over again. Slowly but surely, she's starting to kind of have these visions of herself where pieces of herself are falling off, and maybe perhaps there's some sort of demon inside of her that is trying to get out, that is pushing out parts of herself and replacing her with parts of itself, the demon part. Very interesting way to portray a eating disorder, and it's a really fascinating movie. It's also so dark at times that I think I'm missing parts of the movie because it's so dark. And I mean, in terms of coloring, I couldn't see some of the things that were happening that I'm assuming were supposed to be expressions of what the demon was doing. She's a nightclub singer. She sings really well until, of course, she's been throwing up a lot and starting to take a toll on her voice. And to also to cover up for her, to cover up for that, she started drinking. So she's becoming a bit of an alcoholic, which is making her unreliable. She's falling apart at gigs. And then it arrives at this scene where she and her band are performing at a wedding, and she's just she's a little bit drunk and very hungry, and she can't sing anymore. Like, she's just incapable of hitting the notes. And so they just tell her to leave. And she goes in the house, and there's the wedding cake, and your heart drops, everything drops in that moment. It is so hard to watch because you know what she's probably going to do to that wedding cake. And I almost had to turn it off. It was that level of visceral, like, fear and identification. I don't have the kind of eating disorder that she has, but I certainly do have some pretty severe food issues. I don't have bulimia, but I do have like very severe issues related to food, emotional issues related to food.
Mhm.
And seeing that enacted here in the way it is very, very triggering. And but it's also incredibly effective in that way. I wish I could have seen more of the movie, but in terms of just how dark it is, like, there's just nothing I could do to make it look any better. Adjusting anything I could to try and actually see anything. Some of the scenes are just shot so darkly that you can't make out what's happening. But the one thing I gotta say about this movie that is really interesting is that days don't seem to end or begin. They just when you're in what she's in terms of bulimia and in terms of her eating disorder, and it's just the days run into each other. And the way this movie captures that is so beautifully. It's just the days just seem to roll, and everything happens again and again. She's at the bar, she's singing, she's at home binging and purging, she's in the bath, she wakes up the next day, she goes to her job, she's late to work, she's having kind of, the day just sort of sliding by, and then she's back at the bar, and it all just keeps happening in this melange where it doesn't seem to be edited. It just seems to be just sort of happening in a circle. And that routine is so perfect a way to express what she's going through, because we all think of eating disorders as being this big dramatic thing, but for the person having them, this is just their life. This is just the routine. I eat as much junk as I can. I feel horrible about it. And then I throw it up again and I start all over again. The cycle begins again every single day. And this movie doesn't have an answer. It's not going to try and, redeem her or save her. It's just presenting it. And that's going to begin. It's dark in that way, just how this routine never ends.
Yeah, even you just talking about it has me feeling like, because I think we kind of share a similar eating disorder, especially the emotional part of it.
Yeah.
I definitely can relate to that. And just you talking about that scene has me kind of not even wanting you to go on. I do wonder if they shot it dark because when you're dealing with an eating disorder, you're dealing with probably ultra skinny people, and you don't want the actress to lose too much weight, and maybe they shot her so dark you couldn't really tell what was going on, but
perhaps
at the same time you can't tell what's going on. So but it sounds effective nonetheless. So.
It is it's very, very effective. Yeah, my particular eating disorder, I get very emotional about food. I get very emotional about it, and it causes me to do things with food that then I get ashamed of it, and that shame becomes depression, and then that's the cycle.
I mean, I understand. Like I remember being as a kid and just eating pizza rolls my dad had, and then he came home and was like, "Hey, wait, the pizza rolls," and I just felt terrible. Like I ruined his day. I mean, I don't think he was just like, "We'll get some later." It's not a big deal. It wasn't like he didn't yell at me. But it's those little, it's the stupidest thing, but I was like 7 and it still stays with me, 35 years later. And I have a million stories like that. And you were talking about a movie, what Brittany runs a marathon or something like that.
Yeah.
I totally related to everything you said when that movie came out. So it's I don't know. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's very eye-opening, I suppose, is the phrase I'm looking for. Anyway, let's move on to Catch the Fair One.
Catch the Fair One is a movie starring Kelly Reese, who's a real life MMA fighter and MMA champion fighter. In this movie, she plays an MMA fighter who loses everything and especially loses everything after her little sister is kidnapped and sold into human trafficking. In order to try and track her down and see if she can get her back, she decides to put herself into this world of human trafficking, and she's basically trying to use the skills that she learned when she was in prison for a brief time to keep herself safe and use her MMA training to try and battle back against these guys who took her sister and see if she can try and track her down. This one's an emotionally dark movie, but obviously human trafficking is not a happy topic. This movie takes it very seriously and treats it with a great deal of seriousness. It's not just about a badass woman who's kicking everybody's ass, even though she does kick some ass in this movie. She goes to some very dark places and has to do things that are incredibly awful in order to get to where she wants to get to. And then she does some very violent things and willingly professionally kills people to try and get where she's going to try and save her sister. It's a bold movie. It's an incredibly well-made movie. Kelly Reese is a very effective star, mostly because she's not a star. She's not an actor. She's acting purely on instinct, kind of the way a fighter would perform. And that's kind of what works for this role, is that she's not an actor. You don't see her acting. You don't see her searching for her motivation in any scene. She's a fighter. She's being fought against by people. She's being punched by people, and she's reacting to it. And she's strategizing and how she's going to hit back. And that's really what makes this movie so powerful and compelling.
Yeah, I mean, that is a lot to say, though, to be able to be yourself and to play that and just be, it's very hard. I mean, I can't do it. I mean, I can do it on a podcast, I suppose, but even then I feel like I'm, trying to be likable or whatever. But I mean, I know just being a zombie, like a nameless zombie in the background of my brother's movie, it was hard to do anything. I just, you immediately freeze up, and you hear that a lot about people who don't know what they're doing. So, and you see it in a lot of movies for non-actors. You can tell when a non-actor is on the screen a lot of times. So I think that's really cool that she was able to, be herself and make it work. That's pretty impressive in my book.
Yeah, and I think the approach of, I don't know if the director told her this or not, but just treat it like a fight, like a real fight. Treat every scene like you have to win the scene. That's kind of how she approaches it, and it really works. It really works for this role. On top of which, there's this other element that if you've seen the movie Wind River, that at the end of that movie, there's this sucker punch of an ending that tells you the number of Native American women who just go missing and no one knows what happened to them. And she's part Native American. Her sister is a Native American, and that's kind of an undercurrent of the whole thing, is that so many Native American women go missing every year and they're never on the news and no one ever talks about them.
Yeah, it's awful. Does a razor blade, or is that a razor blade on the cover?
That is a razor blade. It definitely comes into play.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's streaming right now.
Yes, it is. it's from IFC.
Seems very hard to watch, or
it's tough. It's a tough movie. Like there's no light, there's no humor, there's nothing that's going to leaven the moment. It's completely straight ahead serious throughout, and that's going to be hard for a lot of people. But it is an incredible movie.
Okay, let's move on to a much lighter movie. Big Bug from director Jean-Pierre Junot.
I love this director. He's my favorite director in many ways because he's directed so many wonderful films, Amelie, and of course our classic Tonight. And but this, I have absolutely no idea what this is. I don't know what he's trying to do here, and I gave up about halfway through. I just quit because I really just didn't understand this movie at all. The story, if I can try to describe it, it's a future world where robots are in charge, I guess, and they provide everything you want at any moment for any reason. This woman has a guy over at her house, and then her ex-husband and his wife show up, and her daughter, and there's this guy who's there who's got his son there, and then their neighbor comes over, and then somehow they end up locked in the house because something's happening outside, and the house has this notion to protect all the people inside, so it locks itself and keeps everybody there, and just weird shit just keeps happening. People keep trying to have sex and failing to have sex, and then some people do have sex, and then I don't know. It's very colorful. It's incredibly inventive, but I really hated this. I didn't have a good time watching this at all. I just could not find my way into what the point of this was.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the point. I mean, something about that meteor had struck and the robots are trying to protect the people so they won't let them out. I guess the point's like AI had gone awry. So there's that. And it's not the most friendly movie to watch, but at the same time, I like his style. I like the way it looks.
It's inventive.
It took me a few sittings to go through. I didn't make it through. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. I'll take its originality, I guess, or the AI gone wrong is not original, but taking that and making something original out of it. Again, it's not something I'm just going to watch for fun. I'll never watch this again. It's not going to be Amelie or Delicatessen or our classic. But it looks. It has a similar shooting style to those movies. Delicatessen more than the other three, but they all kind of have a weird, unique shooting style, which then makes me wonder. Like, I never saw his Alien movie, but I can't imagine Alien being shot in these weird, which makes me somewhat curious. Although I'm sure the studio didn't allow for any of that.
Right. It's hard. Yeah. It's really hard to think what he saw in Alien and what they saw in him making an Alien movie, considering what we know about him in his movies. It's a very odd combination, to say the least.
Yeah. Did you make it to the one that alien in the background got into the screen? No. That robot, not the alien. That robot behind the people on the poster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I
watched the whole movie.
I thought you quit.
No, I watched the whole thing. I was just frustrated and annoyed the whole time. Like I said, I was waiting for the point to emerge. I was waiting for the purpose to emerge, and it just never did. I don't know what he was trying to say. I never laughed. It's not funny. It's not romantic. It's weird for the sake of weird, and it feels just completely up his own ass.
Well, then when you throw another language on it, for me, I'm not trying. This is my insult.
I watched it in English.
So did I. But still, it was like, when I look at the movies I like of his, there's a central character. They're ensembles, but you have one character that you're following. Here, it's more of an ensemble only, and I just had a harder time following it. I guess is more what I think the problem is. At the same time, maybe if I was French, it would have been the best movie ever. I don't know.
Which character are you supposed to invest in? Like, which is the character you're supposed to care about? The wife didn't do anything for me. She wasn't particularly interesting to me at all. None of the characters were, though. The two kids, kind of.
You're missing the Audrey tattoo, you're missing her, that central focus of the movie, or even the butcher and Delicatessen, or the guy he's trying to butcher up. One of you don't have, you just have every character is kind of equal, and I got lost in it a lot.
There's a scene, there's a thread going throughout. There's this character who's there trying to have a date with the lead female character, and throughout he's just really trying very hard to get laid. And then when he's just about to do it, he suddenly turns and goes, "No, I don't want it. It's too much. All of this is too much." And you're like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, I get it after he gets what he wants and then he leaves like he's an asshole. Fine. But for him to stop on a dime and not go for the thing that he wants, he's been pushing for the entire movie, it just felt like a just random choice. And there's so many of those random choices throughout. Like, there's a hardcore sex scene at one point. You're like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, right. What is happening? And then there's these robots who they're like the house robots and they want to be human, but then why are they I don't know. I don't get any of it.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that does work, not even works, not the right word, but good direction, I suppose. You know, what you're complaining about with Cosmic Dawn, where it seemed like different actors were in different movies. All these actors were in the same movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, he had that going. And, you know, all the other movies, Amelie and Delicatessen and The City of Lost Children and The Very Long Engagement, they're all like that, you know. They have a weird kind of heightened, almost unique reality, and they all live within that world. This definitely isn't Delicatessen, and I think it wants to be like that in the sci-fi kind of way. I don't know. Does he have a thing with April Fool's jokes, or does he do like that in every movie or something? Or
I don't know. Maybe I've never really clocked it.
Well, I just noticed it in here, and then also in A Very Long Engagement. I was like, that's weird. But anyway, let's go to A Very Long Engagement because that's way better.
Oh, such a beautiful movie. This is Jean-Pierre Jeunet doing his own sort of black and white epic romance. Not black and white, but it kind of has it's kind of his take on what black and white looks like, which is kind of a great way to approach it. And it's just a gorgeous looking movie. The story progresses that a young man is sent to the front in World War I, likely sent specifically to his death because the trench warfare in World War I, especially at the front where he was fighting, it just seems like there's no hope whatsoever. And Jeunet is very honest and allows those scenes to be incredibly grim when he shows them. Back home, Audrey Tautou is the girlfriend or fiance of this young man, and she's just desperate to know anything about him. Where is he? Is he alive? Is he dead? And she's going on this journey to try and find out what happened to him. Where is he? Is he alive or dead? And it's such a beautiful, epic, romantic, sweeping thing that also just happens to have this sense of humor and romance that is specific to Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Like, you just know that this is him and this is the way he makes movies. And even when he's doing something like scenes of war, he's doing it in a way that he does it, not the way anybody else does it. And he approaches it the same way with the way he portrays romance. It's his idea, his very specific vision of what a romance is, and it's just beautiful. And then on top of that, you've just got this incredible cinematography. The look is so original and unique. The setting is this early 20th century setting, but it's unlike any early 20th century setting. It feels authentic, and yet it feels like Jeunet. I just love this movie. I love this guy. This movie is like well over 2 hours long. It never feels like it for 1 second. It's a movie that just floats by.
It's so weird because you described this movie about a widow or a potential widow trying to search for her long lost soldier fiance. Sounds very boring. And so then you look at the runtime and there's just nothing appealing about what this movie sounds like it's going to be. But then you watch it and you're 100% right. It's like the right amount of quirk. It's his own unique, and he has it in all of his movies. The war scenes remind me very much of Delicatessen. The love scenes are very, he definitely I don't know. He just has a very unique way of shooting, but it's wholly his own. And you can just tell he made this movie while it's its own thing at the same time. And I mean, his use of farts and poop and stuff like that, he has it in here, and it's not like Adam Sandler-ish juvenile. Like he somehow makes a juvenile concept or juvenile joke just fit in. It really is. Did this win any awards? This had to have been like Best Foreign Picture, didn't it?
It was nominated for sure. I don't know if it won, but it was certainly nominated. It deserved Best Picture. I mean, it was the 2004. This movie belonged in the Best Picture race.
Absolutely.
The way Drive My Car is there now, this one should have been one of those rare foreign films to get a Best Picture nomination because it is just that good. It's just so beautiful and romantic and different. Like it's unlike any movie of its kind, and yet it sounds like it could be anything like a dozen movies from the 1940s to the 1970s.
Well, yeah, I mean, this could be as boring as English Patient if the wrong person made it.
Right.
And let's not, forget about Audrey Tautou because she is amazing in this movie. I mean, everybody's amazing in it, but she really does hold this movie together. And I think when his best movies are when he has that central character to revolve around. You also have, what's her name? Marion Cotillard.
Marion Cotillard.
She is phenomenal in this. Jodie Foster pops up. I'm like, what the fuck is she doing in this movie? You have the kind of the protagonist and from Delicatessen in it as the kind of caretaker of her character. The whole thing was just so watchable and interesting and entertaining, and it had no reason to be this good, and which really makes it probably his best.
I mean, I still love. I think it's right there with Amelie. Like the two they're just neck and neck for me when it comes to his best work. The way he uses her face, her eyes are so expressive, and you're just lost in them at times. Just the pain, the sorrow, the joy that she's, the romance, the love, you can see it all play across her face so beautifully, and he captures that beautifully.
And I know she's done other things outside of his work, but so many people have lost, do not use her properly. To me, she should be one of those crossover actresses that should be as famous as anybody else. She's as good as a young Scarlett Johansson and Lost in Translation, or even Jennifer Lawrence in her early stuff, Winter's Bone. I don't know why she's not as popular as them in the mainstream, because she is that good. I mean, just elevates these movies to a level that not many people can, and she deserves to be treated like those other actresses.
I don't know what it is. Maybe she just doesn't like working outside of France. I'm not sure.
Maybe she was in that terrible Lebowski sequel, and it wasn't her fault. It was just a total waste of her.
Yeah, that movie is a total waste of everything.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen A Very Long Engagement, I highly recommend it. I mean, if you really, Amelie, this, Delicatessen. I haven't seen The City of Lost Children, I don't think.
No, it's got to go on the list, though.
Absolutely. But, I mean, it's worth. I haven't been disappointed. I mean, Big Bug was a little weird. I definitely wouldn't start there. I don't plan on going back either. But these are, you can't miss. I really don't know how you would dislike any Amelie or this or Delicatessen.
No, the run of Amelie to this is just so. Few directors can claim that kind of back-to-back triumph.
Right. And then even like the gross stuff, he films it and puts it in these movies. Like, I mean, they get killed, they fall in the mud, and they go in. I mean, it's
he's not playing around.
But it works with the movies. I mean, I don't know, just really, really impressive. And I couldn't recommend this movie more. I'm glad we did it. I feel my idea, but I know you've been talking about this movie forever. So I'm glad I finally got to it. Wayne's World turns 30.
Yes, it does. And I love Wayne's World. And what a surprise to find that this movie holds up so very, very well. Because I was really kind of dreading this, because what we know about Mike, Mike Myers now and how weird he is, and even Dana Carvey's kind of getting a little weird in his older age. And just thinking about that, I was kind of worried that maybe that might make me forget just how much I loved this movie. But no, right off the bat, the first few minutes, it was a time machine. Just the second I hear the second I hear him say "swing," I'm like, I'm back in it. I'm in now. Let's keep going. I want more. And it's just so much fun. It's so good hearted. It's so sweet. These characters truly love each other, and it just radiates off the screen how much excitement and fun they're having. And of course, Penelope Spheris is a wonderful director for this material, just capturing the both the heightened, over the top, Saturday Night Live jokes, and yet these wonderfully sweet characters who you just really enjoy watching. Even if Tina Carrere is like 50,000 times out of Mike Myers, attractiveness level, it's almost like Kevin James sitcom level of absurd that he's with her. I still buy it because he's just such a sweet guy, and Wayne is anyway. And
Right.
I love this. I really didn't think this was going to hold up as well as it did, but I had such a great time watching this.
Well, you got Mike Myers' love for this character and the content. Then you bring in Penelope to direct it and really ground him. I know they fought a lot while they made it, but a lot of these, guy jokes that, don't necessarily hold up anymore. She found a way to make it harmless and make these characters pathetic enough where it's not offensive, 30 years later, which is really impressive because a lot of these movies that came out of this kind of same vein do not hold up well enough.
Yeah.
But this was so much fun. It's not even funny. It is funny, actually. My son watched it with it, and he's ready to be Garth for Halloween already. My wife's like, "You can be Wayne if you want." It's like, "No, I want to be Garth." He's running. He's been, I'm not kidding, singing that Wayne's World song almost nonstop since he's been watching, to the point my wife's like, "You say it again, you're taking your phone away." And she also said her favorite jokes in this movie. She got in a lot of trouble with her parents when she said it to them because she didn't understand it. And so the whole time he kept going, "Is that the joke? Is that the joke?" And it was when he wanted to order cream with some young guy. We never really went into that with him, but I don't know. It's just so well cast, and it knows what it is. It stays in its lane. It has fun.
Great Rob Lowe performance. He's so smarmy. He's so great at it too.
Talk about an actor that knows what he does well. Yeah. He's never going to win an Oscar, but he's going to play that Rob Lowe character perfect every time he does it.
Yeah, like this one in Tommy Boy. He's the best thing, arguably in Tommy Boy. He's just so funny.
Right. Yeah. And
then
they do it all the time, but the Alice Cooper scene, I love when they sit there and it just gets so serious and they just
really walk a.
And then the multiple endings. It's just
not to mention, super happy ending.
Right. Not to mention the Bohemian Rhapsody scene, like one of the best scenes in the history of film, especially when it comes to this fun stuff, these everyday watchable movies. Just everybody involved did Ed O'Neill is hilarious in it.
Just him walking away with the camera for the first time, just monologuing straight to the camera is just fucking great. Just completely throwaway scene. It has nothing to do with the movie, but it's just so smart.
Yeah, just not an ounce of fat, just a lot of fun. Really making these two bigger stars than they'd ever would have been. They also locked them together forever, whether they wanted to be or not.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased that it held up. I know Wayne's World 2 is not quite as good. It's just more of a recreation of this. And so what's the point? I liked it, but, it's not Wayne's World.
Yeah.
I've been to Aurora, just kind of drive around looking to see any of the landmarks are there. It's I don't know who hasn't seen it, but I think it's worth showing your kids. I know a lot of my friends did, so it's 30-year-old.
It's a trip, this is one of those time travel movies. You're a kid again watching this movie. You just are. It's just one of those things. It's a benchmark of my being a 16-year-old is this movie, and I just go right back there watching this movie, being just having a massive crush on Tia Carrere and
Oh yeah,
singing along with Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, it's just the best.
Oh, I was 12, and I probably spent 14 to 20 trying to find everything Tia Carrere did because she was so hot in this movie. It's I don't know. It was a good weekend. Is all I'm going to say. That's not a lot of times do these movies actually hold up and work, and this does, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. This one definitely holds up.
All right. Next week, we've got Dog, Uncharted, Strawberry Mansions, and A Banquet. Our classic is the John Carpenter film Prince of Darkness. I think that's right after his more famous movies, kind of like either his last good one or his first bad one, depending on how you rate him. 1992, we got Falling from Grace, Radio Flyer, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, and This Is My Life. They knew Wayne's World was coming out the week before, so they just dumped all the other movies this week.
Yeah.
So that is our show. Head over to patreon.com/criticspod if you want to get a credit on the show. TeePublic at ihatecritics.net. Don't forget to subscribe to us, rate and review the show. We will read your reviews on the air. But for now, let's go play Flip Chart. And we will start with A Little Mermaid or American Gangster.
Which way are you going?
Little Mermaid.
Yeah, I'll go there.
Only because American Gangster should have been better.
Yeah, that's true.
I do like it, but not good enough. Letters from Iwo Jima or Coneheads?
Coneheads. Total guilty pleasure, that movie. Especially Chris Farley is one of the I think he's funniest in that movie than he is anywhere else. I just think he's hilarious in that movie.
He was also in Wayne's World too. I totally forgot he was in it. And
that was a great scene. Again, like just the little cinematic touches in Wayne's World, like this guy who gives them totally needed information for later, and they're just totally playing it beautifully. It's very surreal and just very funny. And
as much as that's been copied from over the years, Sandler's done it a million times, and it never works the same. Like, I figured that wouldn't play as well because of how many times it's been ripped off, but it still felt fresh. Even the product placement jokes were so much better in here than in any other movie that's tried to do it since.
Yeah. So skillful, just so clever.
Yeah. All right. Sweet Home Alabama or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I hate Sweet Home Alabama so much.
The Stepford Wives, Insidious. That was the remake of the Stepford Wives, by the way. Pitch Perfect or Shrek Forever After?
It's a lesser Shrek, but I actually like the Pitch Perfect sequels more than I like the Pitch Perfect movie.
I agree, but this was a bad Shrek.
Yeah. Which way are you going?
I'm going Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
It's at least laid the groundwork. Capturing the Freedmans. You seen that one?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Hell, you gotta see that. If you haven't seen that, you gotta see it.
I will have to see it, but I've not seen it. I'm assuming it's better than Rambo 3 though.
Yeah, that's not too hard to be. Better than Rambo 3.
Weekend at Bernie's, Broken Arrow.
don't know what to do. they're both terrible but they're terrible in that really, really watchable way. Oh man, like I don't know. Broken Arrow.
Yeah, see, for me with Broken Arrow, I know that's when I was realized that John Travolta really wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And it was kind of heartbreaking, so I wasn't able to have that. And I've never gone back to have fun with it.
Yeah.
But it was more like disappointing, like, oh, he's not this awesome actor from that Quentin Tarantino brought back to us. Then again, Weekend at Bernie's, all I knew was a dead guy walking around. I'll flip it. Broken Arrow it is. Funny Games, Short Circuit.
I've not seen Funny Games. I saw the original, but I didn't see the remake.
I think this is the original.
No, the original's French.
Yeah, look at it.
That's French. The poster. That's Michael Pitt in the poster, and Tim Roth. So that's not the French original.
All right. Well, the French original, Short Circuit. Did you like Funny Games?
It's all right.
Yeah, I thought you tried a little too hard.
Yeah.
Jurassic World, Short Circuit.
Can't remember if Jurassic World is the one I liked. I think I liked it.
We liked it at the time.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Josh hated it. All the more reason to pick it. The Wolf of Wall Street, Chinatown. Yes. Speed Racer, Kiki.
Never. No.
Speed Racer, Leaving Las Vegas.
That's tough. That is so tough. They're so different, but I love them both. Oh man.
That's
Leaving
really
Las
hard.
Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like weird. I'd probably watch Speed Racer first because it's less homework, but Leaving Las Vegas is homework. But the performances are so great, and it's one of those movies that's better. That's still, even if I wouldn't watch it first, I'd pick it. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. All right, Marie Antoinette, The Craft.
Marie Antoinette.
Agreed. I
think people are going to watch Marie Antoinette again after Kirsten Dunst perhaps wins an Oscar, and maybe see that movie just a little bit differently. It's Sofia Coppola, and it's actually really brilliant, but a lot of people wrote it off at the time because they didn't take Kirsten Dunst seriously.
Right. No, I remember loving it when I first saw it, but I do feel like it got dismissed right because
absolutely.
Was that her follow-up to Lost Translation, or was it maybe that was 2 or 3 movies later?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which, either that or Somewhere was the follow-up, but I can't remember which one came first.
The Babadook, Big Mama's House.
The Babadook, obviously.
Yeah. Karate Kid Part 3, Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice.
This isn't fair. I love this one more than Karate Kid. I don't want to argue with it. Manhattan, Dead Man Walking.
Manhattan. I wish I knew who directed Manhattan.
I forgot. Flight Plan, The Jackal.
Flight Plan. They both suck really bad.
Lady
I've not seen the
Killers.
1955 Lady Killers. I only saw the Coen Brothers one.
Brother Bear, I Love You, Man.
I Love You, Man. Yeah, Paul Rudd had the best Super Bowl commercial as far as I'm concerned. That was hilarious.
Him and Seth Rogen.
Yes.
I've never seen a movie you're in. Even the ones we're in together?
He marries the fucking demon that was living in his house. Oh, man, that was such a great twist. It was a journey.
I know there's no sense in them doing this, but they should do a movie every year. It would probably get boring, and maybe we have that Ryan Reynolds factor. I don't know. But their chemistry is as good, if not better, than anybody else.
Very true.
Ever.
I've not seen Dark Hoser. I don't know what that is. It looks like a Lego Batman movie.
Lego Batman. Oh, this is fun. High Fidelity or Martyrs.
Oh my God. Both those movies are fucking incredible. Oh, I mean, I got to go with my heart and say High Fidelity, but I love Martyrs.
Yeah, I gotta go the other direction, but I love High Fidelity. I just tend to go fucked up more than I go hard. High Fidelity is the winner. I don't feel bad about that.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, yeah. Harry Potter shit or Lord of the Rings shit?
Harry Potter shit.
Down to Earth, Dunkirk.
Down to Earth, not bad, but Dunkirk's a better movie, just objectively.
I know. It's also
a lot of Christopher Nolan bullshit.
Yeah. Like even if as much as Spielberg can grab me nuts, if he had done it, it's a better movie, you know. And if you throw in, I don't know, it's it's almost worse because it's Christopher Nolan. But I understand Down to Earth is a throwaway comedy. It's an entertaining throwaway comedy, but nonetheless, it's a throwaway comedy. We'll go Dunkirk. Animal House or Addams Family.
Animal House. I don't hate Addams Family.
Yeah. Clueless, Maverick.
Clueless.
Species 2, The Amityville 4.
Oh, they both suck. They're both just unwatchable piles of crap. But she's really hot, so Species 2.
Ryan Reynolds is really hot.
Was it the first one or the second one where she kisses a guy and pushes her tongue right through his skull? Is that the first one?
I don't remember.
Just for that, I'll give it to that movie.
Because
Amityville was just such a dreary, boring, colorless rehashing of everything you've seen before.
Right. They've never done the Amityville good, and not that we could at this point, not much about the lines, but as a kid reading the book, I was so like, this is amazing. How can you mess this up and nobody even close to it? So, sure. Natasha Henstridge, is that her name? I'll go with that. Let's check the real movie. Jaws 2, Idiocracy.
I've got a big problem with Idiocracy, and just that it's got such a big target. And I know that like some of it continues to come true, and maybe in the future it'll feel even more truthful. But it just doesn't hit right with me. Still, Jaws 2 isn't great, but it does have Roy Scheider, so.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Idiocracy is like the opposite of the Dunkirk. No, maybe not that. Maybe the exact same problem as Dunkirk. It's like it's all there. Just might judge. I don't know. It's not as tight as Office Space. There's not enough humor that makes it rewatchable. And I like the idea.
I think it takes easy shots as opposed to you being a little bit smarter about it.
Yeah, and I don't think the execution was great either. Maybe the whole thing about the time traveler being, the regular guy being the smartest guy in the world, maybe that was a bad approach. But the idea of what the future was, I don't know. I like Mike Judge a lot, but that's not. He was not much better.
It's a great Terry Crews performance. Terry Crews as the president, that is the best part of that movie.
Right, but it's just such a clusterfuck.
What's his name? Mountain Dew something or other.
Right. It's basically crazy. No, we'll flip for it.
Dressed like Apollo Creed at the White House. It's just such a great performance.
Josh 2-1. Rango or The Ring?
Rango.
I do appreciate the Rango. It's really good. Waiting 30 Days of Night.
30 Days of Night. Waiting just
Yeah.
doesn't hold up.
I haven't really revisited it, but I remember even in the moment, there were just things that it was kind of like the lesser comedy compared to some other ones.
Yeah.
Birdman, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Eternal Sunshine, but I love Birdman. Birdman's amazing.
Absolutely. Saturday Night, is that?
It's a TV documentary about Saturday Night Live.
Make this more fun. Oh, God damn it. Glory or against the Rose.
Glory's shorter. Glory wins.
End of the podcast. All right. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.